Welcome back to the People of Penn State podcast. I'm Katie Farnan from the Alumni Association, and today I'm joined by Kylee McGuigan, a fellow Donald P. Bellisario College of Communications graduate. Kylee got her degree in journalism in 2020 and is now the Associate Production Manager for Vogue.com. She's here today to talk about her magazine career and never losing sight of the goal that got her here. Kylee, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's start with your Penn State experience. Why did you choose to come to Penn State?
So when I was thinking about where to go to school, I knew I wanted to get a degree in journalism, have some sort of writing experience, and I wanted to live in New York. So I was like, where can I go where I'm close to New York and also get that experience under my belt? Not necessarily like newspaper writing, but more magazine writing. So I was looking at schools in New York, and none of them kind of like stood out to me. I think they were kind of missing those typical college things like football, like big sporting events, like just a lot of involvement on campus. And backtrack maybe like, I don't know, at this point, probably like 10, 12 years ago, I actually played volleyball in middle school. And we participated in a tournament called Happy Volley, and it took place at University Park campus. And they put us up in the dorms in East Hall, and I was playing volleyball like in the BJC as like a 13-year-old, which was so insane now that I think about it, like all this time later. And I was like, oh, Penn State's pretty cool. Like maybe I'll play volleyball or something. And I'm a tall 5'4", and I don't think volleyball was in my future. So I was like, okay, well, I do like Penn State otherwise. Like it's a big school, big campus. There's a lot to be involved with. I was really interested in Thon. I was really interested in Greek life and just like everything that you could do on campus, basically. And once it finally came time to applying to colleges and then getting accepted to schools, when I got accepted to Penn State, I guess that was early 2016, like January 2016. I went up to University Park for my accepted students day, and it was like a weekend in February. It was probably one of the coldest weekends ever, and of course everyone knows how cold it gets in State College in the winter. And it was snowing during my accepted students day, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like maybe like a cold weather campus is for me. I don't know. And during the whole accepted students day, I was introduced to Valley magazine. So I knew that was something I would be interested in. And when I was given a physical copy of Valley, I was like, this is totally up my alley. Not to rhyme like that, but it just reminded me so much of like Vogue. Like Vogue was always my dream. So I'm like, all right, if I write for Valley, I can write for Vogue. So that was pretty much the selling point. Like not only just like the snow and the cold weather, but Valley really sold me on Penn State and just like everything I can get involved with. So once I decided to go to Penn State, it just like felt like, okay, this is the path I was meant to go down. Everything kind of clicked, and I really could not have asked for a better Penn State experience.
So once you got here, what were some of the clubs other than Valley that you were involved in? And what were some of your top experiences as a student?
Yeah, so outside of Valley, I was involved in Greek life. I was in Delta Phi Epsilon. I was a founding member in 2016 in the fall. And then from there, I worked my way up to go be a part of the Panhellenic Council. I was the executive vice president of Panhellenic 2018 to 2019. I just really wanted to like kind of make an impact on the sorority experience for the women on campus. I worked with our president and our delegates, and it was really great just to get to know a lot of women that I would not have known outside of my sorority otherwise. And I'm still friends with those girls to this day. We have our group chat, and it's so nice that we keep in touch like basically every day at this point. I was also involved with Thon. I was a Rules and Regulations Committee member my sophomore year, and then I was a Dancer Relations Committee member my junior year, and then I danced senior year. So I kind of knew I wanted to dance as well. That was another big goal of mine going to Penn State. So I'm really glad I got to end my Penn State experience career dancing senior year. I was also a Lion Scout, so I was a tour guide for 2 years, walking backwards, getting my steps in. I think that prepared me to move to New York and walk all over the place here. And I was also involved in Ed 2010. So that kind of solidified my love and interest in magazines. My sophomore year, we actually visited the Hearst Tower, and I used to work at Hearst. So it was a crazy full circle moment when I got my first full-time job at Hearst, and visiting that company in 2017, and seeing like magazines, just like holding them, be like, this could be me one day. So yeah, I really got myself involved a lot on campus. Safe to say I definitely did not have a lot of free time, but it was great. It was a great experience.
That's the only way to do it, right?
Totally.
So you graduated in 2020, which we all know was a very non-traditional graduation year. What was that experience like, and what were some of the things that kind of taught you to prepare you for the real world?
Yeah, so I remember vividly, it was spring break, March 2020. We were in Florida and we were like, we're never going back to school. That's crazy. And we're like, how are we going to do 55 days at cafe? But other than that, it really kind of like woke us all up. All my friends and like peers had full-time jobs lined up, and then they were kind of revoked. Like people's plans were more or less upended. So it's like, what are we going to do? Are we going to go to grad school? Are we going to live at home for the rest of our lives? Like, how are we going to get these jobs that we worked 4 years essentially to get? And I had to move back home to New Jersey, and I was just like living at my parents' house, figuring out what I could do to get to New York and work in magazines. So I was working in fashion boutiques. I was just kind of like trying to pick up freelance work, like literally anything I could do to get to New York, and just hoping that things would go back to normal per se. But it was truly quite a time, and I can't believe it's been 5 years since that. But it's almost like maybe a blessing in disguise that COVID sort of happened, because I don't think I would be sitting in my Brooklyn apartment working at Vogue right now had it not.
It all works out in the end, right?
Totally. Oh, it all works out in the end, which is so crazy and woo-woo, but I totally believe that it all works out in the end.
I agree. So how did you then land into the magazine industry? So you're working at these boutiques when you moved back home. You knew you wanted to end up in New York. When did that launch for you, essentially?
Yeah, so before I kind of got involved with magazines, I was working at a startup crisis communications firm in my hometown. Did that for maybe about 9 months, just kind of get a little experience under my belt. Because I was like, do I want to work in magazines? I don't know anyone who works in magazines. Like maybe I'll just like be a copywriter and like work in PR, work in marketing, like anything that I could do to just get some writing experience under my belt. And then around May 2021, I was scouring the depths of LinkedIn, like scrolling and scrolling, connecting with people who worked in magazines, like seeing how I can get an in essentially. Because like I just said, I didn't know anyone. And it's kind of tough as what was I, like 23 at the time, to kind of get your foot in the door when you're living in South Jersey. You're not in New York, like you're not making those in-person connections. And I saw a post on LinkedIn from a woman who was working at Hearst Magazine. She was looking for a temporary producer. So that's someone who essentially just like works in a content management system. It's the back end of a website, like uploading articles that go live on the site. And I was like, okay, I have experience. We used WordPress when I was on Valley, so I know how to produce content for a website. So I reached out to her. I was like, hey, here's my resume. This is my experience. And we actually had a quick phone call. I was at the beach. I left the beach and took it in my car. It was just me kind of going over my experience of working in CMS, like how I'm interested in working in magazines. That was kind of it. A week passed. I did my follow-up, like, thank you so much for your time. Like, would love to know what the next steps are. And she was like, oh, we're going to get you started next week. And I was like, well, that's crazy. Like it happened so fast. Granted, it was a temporary position. So just kind of 6 months working as a temporary employee with the hope of becoming full-time. So I did that for 6 months while also freelancing for another outlet, while also working at a fashion boutique. So I was kind of juggling 3 different jobs at once, again, just to like make money, save money to eventually move to New York and figure out how to get a full-time job to come to fruition. And then about 6 months had passed as me working as a temporary employee. And then they offered me full-time role as an associate commerce editor at Hearst Magazines, based in the New York office. And they were like, need to move in the winter. You're going to be in the office. So that was kind of how I dipped my toes into magazines and kind of jump started my career, and moved to New York in 2022. And the rest is history.
So you always had that goal in mind, right? You wanted to end up in New York. That was kind of end goal for you. But it was probably really frustrating coming out of college during a pandemic, not being able to immediately land that job. How did you keep the positive outlook and kind of keep that goal top of mind and making sure that you were still making progress towards it? If there's any listeners out there who are kind of going through the same thing, just graduated, kind of struggling to figure out where to land and how to get there.
I think the unique thing about being like a graduate of the College of Communications is that our career paths are a bit different than like think about your business finance friends. A lot of my friends did have degrees in business or like had those straightforward paths. They had internships when they were like 18, 19, 20 and full-time jobs before they graduated, essentially. And with us, it's kind of like, not to glorify the hustle, but I think those of us who want more of a creative path, kind of, no one really tells you like, oh, you actually need to like be a temporary employee, you need to freelance, you have to have so many jobs under your belt until something turns full time. And granted, the whole idea of like, oh, it's who you know, it's who you know, like it totally helps. I did do a lot of research I did a lot of research with like other Penn State alum, just trying to make connections of who was in New York, how I can get like leads. But it really is like at the end of the day, like the person who gives you like one bit of advice, it just kind of like propels you to like help you figure out your career, if that makes sense. I connected with this woman who was not a Penn State alum, but she did give me a lot of great advice on how to fix my resume, how to fix my website portfolio, and just like how to reach out to people within the field I wanted to be in. So once I figured out how to like tailor my resume and my portfolio to sell myself as like a writer or a digital producer, I think I set myself up for success. Because then when I had my experience working at Hearst Magazines and then freelancing at the same time, my first job at Vogue appeared on LinkedIn, and I was able to throw my resume out into the ether and just hope for the best. And someone reached out to me, and again, the rest is history. But I think it was just like kind of staying positive to an extent. Like, again, this is quite woo-woo, but every mood board or like, I did a lot of like manifestation mood boards growing up, and it always had Vogue and New York on it. I don't know if that just like came to fruition as an adult, but I told everyone I knew, like, I want to live in New York and work in Vogue. And when I got my first job at Vogue, like, people were like, they only knew me as me saying I wanted to work at Vogue. So I think that's pretty crazy that it kind of all happened.
Literally a dream come true, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The day I got my job was the most chaotic day ever, but it was just, I was like, wow, I can't believe it.
So with that being like your overarching goal, and now you're here, right? 5 years after graduation, you kind of reached that pinnacle of being at Vogue. And I feel like in the magazine world, when you think magazine and where you want to end up, like Vogue is up there, right? For
Yeah.
most people. So do you ever have like a pinch me moment when you realize like you're here and you made it?
I think the day that I got my job again was just so chaotic. Like I was dealing with so many like personal things, and I was also trying to go down the shore to meet up with my college friends, and I was like, what's going on? So it was nice to celebrate with them. And when I got this job and I called my parents, it was just a big celebration of a day. But I think the first moment I realized, I was like, oh, I think I made it, was my first day like in the office. And of course, like if you're people who are like following magazines or like follow the fashion world, like there are so many icons who walk these halls essentially. And I think that seeing them in real life and being among so many creative and important people, like as a 24-year-old, was just so insane. But I think my real like, okay, I really made it, was my first September issue was September 2023. I joined my old team in October 2022. So a whole year had passed at this point. September is our biggest issue. And in the middle, like fold, is the whole masthead of every staff member for American Vogue. And seeing my name on the masthead was just so crazy. Again, among all these people who are just like such icons in the industry, I was like, wow, that's me. So I like keep that. We get every issue delivered to us at our desks in the office, but I keep September here at home because it just is incredible. And I think that was like, wow, I think I shed a tear probably. I think I actually bought the issue before it was delivered to our desk. So I was like, I need to see my name in print. So seeing my name in print and seeing my first byline eventually too on the site was just really incredible.
I think September deserves a frame in your apartment.
I know. I need to frame it. I'll just frame the masthead. Someone did frame my first ever article that I wrote for Vogue.com when I was on the shopping team. They framed it and sent it to my dad, and it's in our house. So my first article is framed.
So tell us a little bit about your day-to-day in your current job and what your job was prior to this at Vogue and what that looked like.
Yeah, so like I just said, in October of 2022, I started on the shopping team at Vogue. So previously I was working on commerce at Hearst Magazines, and shopping was just rebranded from commerce with us at Vogue. So I was doing production work for the shopping team. So essentially just building out shopping articles for Vogue.com in our CMS, our content management system. And that looked like receiving, we call them boards. So they're PowerPoints of products that writers and editors are sending to the production team to format to be put into articles on the site. So every product had to be like properly formatted with like the title, the brand, the price, the URL that directs you to the product that you can buy it. And then they're being put in the CMS like in a very specific manner. But it was like a good stepping stone because it was quite fast paced. Shopping is a really growing vertical at Vogue, and I think just across all brands, shopping has really taken off. I think since COVID, since more people are shopping online than in person. And outside of that, I also managed our beauty newsletter, so it had a shopping component to it as well. There were products included that went out 2 days a week. And it was nice working with our beauty writer on that project. Again, just to get some more visibility on beauty. I definitely have a little more bias toward beauty products, but that was a lot of fun. And just kind of managing or overseeing like how much money we were bringing in from our newsletter, from our articles, some other franchises that involved product components. Like our Beauty Secrets is a YouTube franchise. We used to have a franchise called 7 Days, 7 Looks. They all included like products that people were purchasing on YouTube. So kind of keeping track of how much money we were getting from those. Aside from that, I did eventually start to pitch articles and write for the shopping team. So my first article that I mentioned was Framed. I tested out some of the best hair dryer brushes. So think like the Revlon, Dyson, Shark, and they were all sent to me at my apartment. I got to keep all 13 of them, which was amazing. But it was nice to like, again, get some writing under my belt and actually test out products, which was really fun. But from there, I transitioned to our editorial team in April of 2024. So I just like hit my 1 year in my current role. My old position was I was an associate commerce producer for Vogue Shopping, and now I'm the associate production manager of Vogue.com. So while I have such a soft spot for shopping, has been nice to transition into editorial. So that's kind of working more across the board, like across our fashion, beauty, like culture features teams. But the biggest part of my job is that I manage our cover launches. So whenever this goes out, we launched our Anne Hathaway cover for August, just on Monday of this week. So on July 7th, we launched it online. And my job is to take all of the assets, so the text and the photos that are in the print magazine, and put them online. So they all live on a server like that I have access to, a very secret server. And I put them in our CMS essentially, and I work with our deputy editor and our art director and our writers to just like package all of that together. And I joke with my friends that like I'm like the last one to see the cover before it goes live. So I just kind of manage that whole process. And on top of that, we also have some supplemental content that goes along with our cover launches. So Anne Hathaway, we did our best Anne Hathaway moments in Vogue. I just work with our writers and editors on scheduling that to go online at the same time as the cover, so that we kind of like take over the Vogue.com homepage with content related to our cover star. So next will be September. So I'm not sure when that will be released, but definitely stay tuned. Aside from that, though, that being one of my biggest projects, I do manage the Vogue.com homepage every day. So if you visit Vogue.com, you will see 3 main stories. I curate those every day. I work with our editor and again, our art director, just to make the homepage a bit visually appealing and what's newsy, what's trending that day. And everything else on the homepage is also like essentially curated. We have some carousels of content like celebrity style. There's a shopping carousel. We have big tentpole events. We just had our global spa guide launch back in May. We spotlight that on the homepage as well. When there's big runway events like Fashion Week or big fashion shows, which are again spotlighted, and people are coming to me and being like, "Can I put this on the homepage?" I'm like, "Yes, of course." So that's been really fun too, to kind of like manage the homepage. I also still work within newsletters. I help produce a weekly newsletter that goes out on Sundays that spotlights some of our archival content. So we're digging up articles, editors are digging up articles from the archive that were like, oh, like, it's the 4th of July. What's pertinent the 4th of July? Or like, Wimbledon's happening right now. Like, how can we pull an archive article that is related to Wimbledon? Things like that. So I'm producing the article. So I'm pulling the photos and the text from the archive, and then it's going in the newsletter that I'm also producing and sending out. Other than that, yeah, it's just kind of like day to day. Some people reach out to ask if I can help them produce just like galleries of like for weddings, or like we have a big tentpole, like all the big tentpole events, like the Oscars, the Grammys, the Emmys, like I manage those red carpet galleries. So it's just kind of like, again, working a lot in our CMS day to day. So not so much shopping, but definitely more editorial focused.
Lots of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, totally.
I need to know though, which dry brush was the best one?
I mean, I was so biased toward the like blow dry brush because I had that already. But then I always said the Dyson. I was like, I don't want to like the Dyson, and I do. I just haven't worn my hair. I haven't worn my hair down because it's so hot.
Well, you all heard it here first. The Dyson's
Yeah.
the top one out of what, 17 you said?
There were 13. Yeah, the
13.
Dyson was totally up there for me. It's worth the hype.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit earlier about how you did some freelance work after graduation. What are kind of the pros and cons of the full-time versus the freelance? Advice for people who are kind of looking to do some freelance work?
I will say, I think it's almost imperative to kind of dip your toes in the freelance, just so you can get your foot in the door. Like even I was hiring freelancers, I was managing freelancers just this past like summer fashion week season, and then in the winter is big fashion week, fashion month season. And I reached out to the presidents of Ed 2010 and the editor in chief of Valley to be like, hey, can you tell your members like I'm looking for freelancers? And I think it's good for these college students to kind of get involved in that way again, so that like you can have a connection with somebody who is a full-time employee, and that like they will keep you in the back of your mind as a freelancer. Like I did bring on a Penn Stater as a freelancer and it was so great. Like I'm glad that I was able to make that connection with like these members of these clubs that I was involved with. But I think too, like the freelancing aspect of it, while it doesn't of course guarantee the perks of being full-time, I truly think that like it still like gets your name out there, like gets you in the door somehow. Again, I wish I kind of knew that when I was like 20, 21. I just was like, I need a full-time job, like no matter what. But I think that freelancing like is kind of, you're playing a slow game. And I think that's not a bad thing if you want to be a writer or like work in fashion, work in magazines, because people are always looking for freelancers. And if you do work hard enough and like prove yourself, then you will be remembered and they will bring you on. They, as in companies, will bring you on full time.
It's a great way to build your resume too, and your
Totally.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So while we're on the advice train, what advice would you have for any of our listeners who are trying to break into the magazine industry? Maybe they just graduated and they're like, I really want to do this. I love hearing this story. How can I get there? What would your advice be?
I think definitely just first and foremost, like stay calm. Like I said, like I was so overly comparing myself to all my friends who had full-time jobs. I'm like, why is my path so different? Granted, COVID definitely played a part, but I think I just had to like remind myself that it was going to work out in the end. And I think too, like definitely make the connections. Like I am not like a hiring manager. Like I said, I brought on freelancers, but I'm not like a hiring manager, so I can't give someone a job. But I think still just connecting with people, like especially like alumni or just like friends of friends or any connections you might have, I think goes a long way, because they will still remember you. Especially like I said, if I'm looking for a freelancer, I want to be like, oh, well, this person reached out to me a few months ago and now I need their help. So like, yes, somebody might have to wait a little bit until they're reached back out to, but I think it's still like, it still pays off in the long run. Like just to make these connections now and voice that you're like willing to help with anything. I think again, when I was like 2021, I was like, I will do anything for anybody just to make it. But I think just like staying in touch with people is truly the key.
The Penn State network is strong. Penn Staters love to hire Penn Staters too and help Penn Staters out. All right. So I know that you put in your bio, you love Bravo. I do too. Favorite show. This is for the listeners who are the Bravo, Team Bravo.
Summer House, without a doubt. Like literally, I don't know how I even found out about Summer House, but I got on that bandwagon, and every summer I rewatched the entire series from the beginning until the current season to get in like the summer mood.
And you're there, so you're like, I need the same experience. Are you ever out on the streets looking for like Paige and?
Oh my God, yeah, I've met Carl. I've actually been to one of his events. I've met Carl. He was really nice.
Incredible.
I've been in the same room as West. Like it's like, and I've met Lindsay.
Oh, nice.
Crazy. Yeah.
Very circle, right? What about Love Island, Kylee?
Oh my gosh. I texted my roommate, who's also my college roommate. We are roommates again. We are devastated that the finale is this Sunday. So in a few days from now, I guess that's what, July 13th. Yeah. Unfortunately. But yeah, big Love Island.
Who do you have winning? The whole thing?
I don't know. At the beginning, I had my thoughts, and then like they had that note reading night, and I'm like, I'm against some of you. But and now I think Amaya Papaya, she deserves it all.
She's the people's princess.
She is. She just like she says she's sensitive. Girl, same. Like I get it.
We understand you, Amaya.
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we like to wrap things up with a fun little Penn State themed lightning round. So are you ready for this?
Oh gosh. I think so. My Penn State knowledge will come back.
Your
to me.
favorite creamery ice cream flavor?
Oh my gosh. I used to get it all the time after my tours because it ended there and I would be like, all right, bye, parents and kids.
Treat yourself. Yeah.
I think it was definitely the cookie dough, like the cookie dough flavor. I forget what it was called exactly, but definitely that. And I would get sprinkles on it, the blue and white sprinkles.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Your favorite Penn State sport? What are you going to buy tickets for immediately?
Oh, definitely football. I wish I could go. I want to go back so bad. Like I haven't been in maybe 2-3 years. I really want to go back.
Now's the time.
I know.
Your favorite class and or professor while you were a student?
I will say I took a French linguistics class my sophomore year, and that was very interesting. I have a minor in French, and it was kind of one of the courses I could take to complete my minor. And that was very, very interesting, I will say.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. Your
favorite State College restaurant? Where are you hitting up when you come back?
Oh my God, Fed Tap above Target. and I guess like the field, like, I mean, it was a drive, but Fed Tap, we could walk there. So
that's true. Yeah.
Oh my God, in Irving's, how could I forget? I was a regular. Oh my God.
I'm sure that they miss you and they would be happy to have you back for a breakfast sandwich.
I would love to go back.
And last but not least, who would be your Penn State dream dinner guest?
I was friends with the Nittany Lion my year, and we are still friends. I went to his wedding. But I think if I didn't know him, I would have loved to have had dinner with him had I not known who he was. But eventually I did know who he was. Maybe Saquon, because he was a New York guy, and then he was a Philly guy, and I'm a Philly girl. So I'm like, all right, we're going back and forth. So that could be interesting.
That's my answer too. So we'll make that happen.
Lovely.
All right, Kylee. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was such a fun conversation, and we are so happy that you were able to join us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. I could talk about Penn State all day and my whole experience in New York, but yeah, happy to have chatted.
Thank you to Kylee for joining us today. And to our listeners, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Special thanks to our guest relations coordinator, Abrielle Clark, and our graphic designer, Gabrielle Harris, for their work on today's episode. For more information about the Alumni Association, visit alumni.psu.edu. We are.